I am Divya Jinsani and I have a pleasure for being your MOC for this beautiful evening. As you all know that today we all are gathered here for this seminar conducted by Alvar branch of ICI on the topic CARO and tax audits. So without wasting any time, let's move further, and I would like to introduce you the chairman of Alvar branch of ICI, CA Amit Agarwal ji, and I would like to invite him to say a few words.
Very good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, Divya. आज के हमारे लर्नेड स्पीकर विमल चोपड़ा जी का मैं तहे दिल से आभारी हूँ कि उन्होंने बड़ा कीमती समय दिया अपने व्यस्त कार्यक्रम में से। थैंक यू सो मच सर। विमल चोपड़ा सर, मैनेजिंग कमेटी मेंबर्स एंड स्टूडेंट्स, आप सभी का आज के जो हमारा सेमिनार है उसमें आप सभी का वेलकम करता हूं, जो कि हमारा ऑडिटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स ऑन इन रिलेशन टू कारो रहेगा एंड इनकम टैक्स ऑडिट पर्पस से। बेसिकली क्या है कि हम ये जो स्टैंडर्ड्स है हमने अपने एग्जाम्स में जरूर पढ़े थे, लेकिन बहुत कम सीएज होते हैं कि इनको फॉलो कर पाते हैं और वो फॉलो करते हैं। लेकिन इस तरह के सेमिनार्स जो होती है इनके माध्यम से हम अपने आप को अपडेट कर सकते हैं और उसको हम जो अपने ऑडिट पर्पस से है उसमें इंकॉर्पोरेट कर सकते हैं। और आजकल जिस तरह के इवेंट्स हो रहे हैं तो कोड ऑफ एथिक्स और अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड जितना हम फॉलो करेंगे उतना हम सेफ रहेंगे। तो मेरी उम्मीद करता हूँ आप सब एट द एंड ऑफ द सेमिनार काफ़ी कुछ सीखेंगे और इसको इंकॉर्पोरेट करेंगे अपने प्रोफेशनल लाइफ में। थैंक यू सो मच। ओवर टू दिव्या।
Thank you so much, C. Amit Agarwal ji, and thank you so much for gracing this today's seminar. Next, I would like to call our SICASA chairman, C. Akash Singhal ji, who gives direction to every student, and I would like him to narrate this, the profile of our today's speaker.
हमारे सीए ब्रांच के चेयरमैन अमित अग्रवाल जी, आज के सेशन स्पीकर विमल चोपड़ा जी, ब्रांच चेयरमैन पुष्पाल अवध जी, सभी कमेटी मेंबर्स एंड सभी मेंबर्स, मैं आप सबका वेलकम करता हूं। एंड विमल चोपड़ा सर जो आज हमारे सेशन के स्पीकर हैं, उनके बारे में बताना कुछ ऐसा होगा कि जैसे सूरज को हम रोशनी दिखा रहे हैं, तो वो अपने आप में एक खुद प्रोफाइल है उनका। उनको कोई इंट्रोडक्शन की जरूरत नहीं है, फिर भी मैं थोड़ी सी कोशिश कर रहा हूँ। विमल सर 50 साल से प्रैक्टिस में इन्वॉल्व हैं। सिंस 1989 वो फाउंडर पार्टनर रहे हैं और विमल चोपड़ा विमल एंड कंपनी में। उन्होंने काफी सारे सेमिनार्स कंडक्ट किए हैं एंड 2002 में उन्होंने पोस्ट चेयरमैन CIRC ऑफ ICI की पोस्ट भी होल्ड करी है। इसके अलावा वो कोऑपरेटिव मेंबर भी रहे हैं 2018-19 में ऑडिटिंग एश्योरेंस बोर्ड में। 2017-18 में स्पेशल इनवाइटी ऑन कमिटी ऑन अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड बोर्ड फॉर लोकल बॉडीज ऑफ ICI, और वो स्टडी ग्रुप्स में जो ICI का एंड ये लिस्ट बहुत लंबी है, तो शायद मुझे लगता है कि उसके लिए भी एक सेमिनार हमको रखना पड़ेगा अगर वो लिस्ट मुझे कंप्लीट करनी है। तो विदाउट वेटिंग फॉर हम किसी और डिले कराते हुए सेमिनार में, मैं विमल चोपड़ा सर से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा तो सेशन को स्टार्ट करें और हमारे मेंबर्स को कुछ ज्ञान का थोड़ा सा शेयर करें ताकि हमारे मेंबर्स इससे बेनिफिट हो सके। विमल सर आप अनम्यूट करें अपने आप को।
Yeah. Thank you, Akash. Thank you, Abhijit. Thank you, Divya. Thank you, all office bearers of Alvar branch and all the participants of this VCM. So we welcome and I hope कि वहाँ भी मौसम बहुत अच्छा होगा and I will try my level best कि मैं आपको ये जो time period है मैं आपको retain कर सकूँ। एंड क्योंकि ऑडिटिंग एक ऐसा सब्जेक्ट है कि जो मुझे लगता है कि प्रोफेशन के लिए तो बड़ा मदर सब्जेक्ट है। तो मेजॉरिटी केसेस में हमें लगता है कि ऑडिटिंग तो हमें बहुत कुछ आता है, और आज का जमाना जबकि इंस्टीट्यूट के ऊपर नफरा है, पीयर रिव्यू बेंचमार्किंग के लिए अवेलेबल है, आपके अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स अपनी जगह पे है, इंड AS अपनी जगह पे है, रेगुलेटरी कंप्लायंसेस दुनिया भर की हो गई है, और अभी कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट भी रिवाइज हुआ तो आपके एथिकल स्टैंडर्ड्स भी हो गए। सो यू हैव प्रोफेशनल स्टैंडर्ड्स, यू हैव एथिकल रेगुलेटरी रिक्वायरमेंट्स एंड योर लीगल रिक्वायरमेंट्स, ये सब चीजें चेंज हो गई है। सो इट इज नॉट ओनली जस्ट लर्निंग, इट इज अनलर्निंग ऑल्सो। बहुत सारी चीजें जब चेंज हो जाती है तो आपको अनलर्न भी करना पड़ता है, भूलना भी पड़ता है। सो दैट इज द एरिया। मैं कोशिश, ये जो प्रेजेंटेशन मैंने आपके लिए तैयार किया है, दिस प्रेजेंटेशन इज ए इंट्रोडक्शन टू कारो। उसमें जो रेड पोर्शन जो है, रेड कलर्ड जो फॉन्ट मैंने यूज किया है, वो है चेंजेस। जो कारो के अंदर नए चेंजेस आए हैं वो क्या क्या चेंजेस हैं, और उसके नीचे मैंने ब्राउन कलर में अरेंज किए हैं वो सारी रेलिवेंट इंफॉर्मेशन, जिसको अगर आप रेफर करेंगे तो आपका ये जो स्लाइड्स है वो स्लाइड्स एज ए रेडी रेफरेंसर काम कर सकती है। इसके साथ में मैंने जो ऑडिटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स रेफर किए हैं, गाइडेंस नोट ऑन टैक्स ऑडिट्स जो अभी इंस्टीट्यूट के पब्लिकेशन में, सो वेयर एवर the auditing standards have been referred and wherever the auditing standards are always necessary whenever you carry out in attest function, तो वो मैंने ये स्लाइड के अंदर इनकॉर्पोरेट किए हैं। और तीसरा एक और सेगमेंट इनकॉर्पोरेट इन स्लाइड्स के अंदर किया है, जहां इनकम टैक्स की सेक्शंस लिए हैं, वो सेक्शंस जो ऑडिटर के ऊपर पेनल्टीज इम्पोज कर सकती हैं, या ऑडिटर को whether he was hand in gloves with the assessee, there could come some cases like that, like inflation of the expenditure or evasion of taxes, something like that. So these are mainly three elements: the CARO, the tax audit, the income tax relevant provisions. और इसको हम लिंक करेंगे ऑडिटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स के साथ में। एज एन ऑडिटर, व्हाट इज योर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, हाउ यू कैन discharge your duties, at the same time how you can professionally meet the expectations of the ICAI, and at the same time how you can satisfy your client so as to realize the money and not to be in non-gainful competition with your fellow brothers and sisters. So with this brief introduction, I'll be sharing the screen of my presentation. Number of slides are more. That is for your for your library. So I will hurriedly go through with the slides, because I understand that as far as CARO is concerned, the exposure draft is available. As far as tax audit is concerned, you have been conducting tax audits since long period, and the publications are available with you. And as far as income tax provisions are concerned, they are also more or less known to you. The only thing which is very important at the moment is that I have brought all them together at one place to act as a ready referencer and to act as a friend in need. So with that thing, I'm proceeding to share the slide. Hello, is slide? Hello, is slide visible to you? Hello, hello, hello.
No, sir, it's not. It's not.
Hello, are my slides visible to you?
No, sir.
Hello.
No, sir, they are not visible to us.
Slides. Are slides visible? Hello? Hello?
No, sir. No, sir. Slides are not visible.
Slide sharing. No, screen. Hello. Just to save you. इसको क्लोज करना है Manisha. Is it now visible to you?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So, sorry for the interruption. In my last VCM, there was a question that, sir, as far as CARO is concerned, there is a definition, there is a change in definition of a small company, section 2, subsection 85, wherein the paid up capital limit has been increased from 50 lakhs to 2 crore. And the turnover limit from 2 crore to have been increased to 20 crore. So once a company is excluded as being a small company, then what is the necessity of leaving the another condition in case of a private limited company where the capital and reserve requirement is only 1 crore and turnover is less than and turnover is 10 crore? What is the difference? If a company having a paid up capital of 1.5 crore, why it can't claim exemption as being a small company? See, the issue is like this, that as far as small company is concerned, that is clause 4, section 2, subsection 85 will prevail because the notification is with effect from 1st of February 2021. So if a company is satisfied the condition, which is paid up capital is 2 crore or turnover is 20 crore. So if it does not if this paid up capital does not exceed 2 crore or turnover does not exceed 20 crore, it is a small company. CARO is not applicable. Now, moving to the conditions which are attached with private limited company, you will observe that here the reference is of paid up capital and reserves and surpluses. It is not just paid up capital. It is in a way net worth. Paid up capital and reserves and surplus should not be more than 1 crore as on balance sheet date. And as far as borrowing is, there is another condition. In clause for small companies, the conditions were either or. Here the conditions are cumulative. So you have number one condition, capital not more than capital plus reserve and surplus not more than 1 crore. Number two condition, does not have a total borrowing. It is not talking about the sanctioned limit. It is talking about the total borrowing exceeding 1 crore from any bank or financial institution, that too at any point of time in the financial year. And number 3, does not have a total revenue exceeding 10 crores. So if you feel that you are satisfying these 3 conditions put together, so you just try to fit into any of the clause. Either a small company clause, you are outside the CARO, or this private limited company fulfilling these 3 condition clause, you are outside the CARO. So if either of the 2 things are not happening, then you are within the scope of applicability of CARO. I think if there are any other questions, we will take up those questions. I mean, at the end, I'll try to leave sufficient time for the question answers. Now, SQC is the mother. I mean, if you want to move toward auditing standards, and if you really do not go through with the standards on quality control, then I would say the foundation will be a defective foundation. So I have just chosen 3 lines from the SQC, which is there in the subsequent slide, that what SQC is, I mean, to what extent it is important and to what extent we should take special care of it. So SQC 1 is all about quality control for firms that perform audit and review of historical financial information and other assurances and related service engagements. This is here I have listed the auditing standards. You just go through with the basic headings of these auditing standards. 1, the general principles and responsibilities. Here there are a bunch of essays which is about the general principles and responsibilities, and the another set is towards risk assessment and response to assessed risk, and then the audit, then the of the others 700 to 799 audit conclusions and reporting. I mean, so this is the list of the, this is the, this is the list of the auditing standards, which as per the basic classification of the auditing standards. Now, as far as the general clarifications are concerned, the Institute has come out with the 2 general clarifications also dealing with the
You have to unmute, sir.
Yes, thank you. So, is it audible, Sharma ji? या मैं कोई और better signal वाले एरिया में जाऊं?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Fine.
Audible. So SQC is the, I mean, few lines I would like, as I said, it is a foundation of all the auditing standards, and which is the requirement before we proceed for the performance of any audit or a test function. The firm should establish a system of quality control Now, what a quality control is that the firm should have a library, firm should have a continuous education system, firm should have SOPs prepared for attending various things, firm should have audit programs, the engagement letters, the written representations, and a lot of other things. So before you could deliver a system of quality control, you have to see that whether you have all the requisite material in your office or not. Nowadays, because of the virtual library, you have almost everything available on the internet, and there are other various platforms as well. So first, a system of quality control within the office. Second, audit is not a guarantee; it is a reasonable assurance. The assurance that too is reasonable. You will have to justify what particular procedure was chosen by you, or particular view was taken by you, or particular emphasis of matter or qualification or disclaimer was given by you. And reasonable assurance with regard to whom? Firm and its personnel. The word which they use is personnel. It includes your partners, your paid employees, chartered accountants, or even your articles. And they should require three things. One, professional standards governed by your ethical code of conduct and ethical requirements. Then regulatory requirements of the institute. I will like to move to a better place where I think the signals are not that weak. Hello. 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 Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
And these signals are good now, or?
Fine, fine.
I've moved to another place in my office, and I hope the signals will be good. So, sir, after the SQC, I'm referring now to the few accounting auditing standards which have been referred in the guidance note on tax audits. The first requirement in case of any audit is audit engagement. Now, audit engagement, I would like to draw your attention to point number 6 and clause number C. I mean the B3rd. To provide the auditor with, it has been specifically referred in the guidance note that you should have access to all the information. Access to all information of which management is aware and that is relevant to the preparation of financial statements, such as records, documentation, and other matters. In companies we have secretarial department, we have manufacturing plant, we have manufacturing plants, we have legal department. So either the small section or the bigger section, whatever section you should have access to all the information. And additional information the auditor may request from the management for the purpose of the audit, like certification, like external confirmations, like using the work of other auditors or something, or experts' opinion, or the other evidences. Then third is unrestricted access to persons within the entity from whom the auditor determines it is necessary to obtain audit evidence. Like some cases. You may this man is not available, this office is not available, we can provide you copies, we can provide you soft copies. It should be a decision, final decision shall be of the auditor, because ultimately he is to deliver these things. So now after the engagement is over, now you know how you will get information. Management also know what information they have to give to you, and then you start the audit. There is an audit program, there are procedures which you have started creating and following, all those kind of things. So this will give birth to audit documentation. That is, again, a very important part of it. Now, what is the objective of documentation? Audit has to be a transparent process. You have audited, that proof is required. You have audited in a systematic manner, that is also required. So after engagement, after audit program, whatever that you are conducting, there has to be a documentation of all those things. So in the words of the essay, the auditor is to prepare documentation that provides a sufficient and appropriate record. Now, what is sufficient? It has to be the decision of the chartered account of the auditor, and what is appropriate is the decision of the auditor. It is not that what management considers to be appropriate. It is the auditor who considers what is the appropriate. So that is very important. Record on the basis of auditor's report. Second, evidence that the audit was planned and performed in accordance with essays and applicable legal and regulatory requirements. This is important. In many cases, we find in peer review audits or in whenever the income tax or the GST authorities want you to prove that how you have conducted your audit. Then in few cases, the reply was that we have tally data. My dear, you have tally data, that does not mean you have carried out the audit. Tally data is only a reference. And rather, I would say that tally data, keeping the tally data is more risky for you. It is not an audit evidence at all. The institute has also clarified in its, its implementation guide that keeping that tally data is not an audit evidence. What you have done with tally data, that is an important. Many things have to be compared. Like you have the debtors or you have the creditors. Now, if you have sent them confirmation letters, then that is the evidence. If you have checked up the aging of the, the accounting, the account statement, that is the evidence that you conducted. If you try to correlate that whether the advance was towards the goods or it is in the nature of loans and advances or it is a siphoning of the money for the benefit of management and other things, then you have to be aware, you have to be watchdog, you have to be careful. So the sufficient and appropriate record, and that you have really conducted, you have planned and performed the audit in accordance with essay. Then these two are your requirements. Now, auditor shall prepare audit documentation which is sufficient to enable an experienced auditor having no previous connection with the audit. A previous connection with the audit is that what a new auditor will perform if accordingly you are every year you are planning performing, then that is the criteria. The auditor shall document discussions. Rest of the things are self-regulatory. I can leave that. This as a 240. Auditor's responsibilities relating to fraud in an audit of financial statement. There is a reference regarding the fraud in the CARO also. Earlier it was restricted to employees or personnel also. Now the scope of the fraud has been increased. Once I come to CARO, I will give additional light onto this issue. But nowadays, fraud. And there's a SFIO, Serious Fraud Investigation Office. That is the part of the statutory. You have NAFRA, you have SFIO. So fraud is something where nowadays you have to be aware. Now materiality is again is undoubtedly applicable here, because every 5-10 rupees or 50 rupees fraud is not there. The fraud in relation to the totality of the financial statements has to be considered. So auditors shall maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit, recognizing the possibility that a material misstatement due to fraud could exist. Notwithstanding the auditor's past experience of the honesty, integrity of the units of management, like in case of Satyam Raju, or in case of any other company you may refer. So previous character is not a sine qua non. The figures which are present before you for the purpose of auditing should be considered. And those so with that professional skepticism, I think professional skepticism is one word which has to be considered. Yeah, if I'm auditing the tax audit of let's say a proprietorship firm of Alwar, and I've seen that the bank borrowings have been diverted to the sister concern or the loans and advances. So one side you have huge amount of the loans. The other side, you have huge amount of the loans and advances given to family members or toward property advances or toward other things. So this is the case where you have to be worried about it. What about the health of those advances which you have advanced, whether they are recoverable? So irrespective of you are auditing the proprietorship firm, you are auditing the partnership firm, you are auditing the company or listed company, there could exist the cases which require your digital attention. SA 265, significant deficiencies in internal control. That is very important. Like a doctor who suggests a full body checkup notices that what are the parameters and what are the abnormal changes in those parameters. Similarly, in case of internal control, the auditors who have really audited some 5-10 years and have seen hundreds of books of accounts or documents, other things, I think they all acquire this knowledge and efficiency to understand what kind of significant deficiencies in internal control are existing in the company. You cannot have an excuse that there was an internal auditor. You cannot have an excuse that there was a SAP program in place or some other things. You have to judge your own things. Like in case of banks, you carry out a simple model. You give them certain data with dates, and you ask them to calculate the interest, and then you check the interest. If that calculation is correct, or take some other examples. So whatever could be those examples, or even you can hire experts who can check some models for you, that what kind of the software is in place or internal check procedures are in place. So because that all together makes a internal control system within the organization. Checking of one person's job with another person, periodic reconciliation, physical verification, the collection of the money and all kind of things, they all together make the internal control. So the likelihood of the deficiencies relating to material misstatement of financial statements will be very less if there is an adequate or a robust internal control system in book. Susceptibility to loss or fraud or of the related assets or liability, or the subjectivity, complexity of determining estimated amounts, etc. So these just the further lines which I understand are self-explanatory. I just want that like a doctor detects with your blood report. Similarly, you do carry out a total total movement check, that how a raw material enters in the company and how a finished good goes out totally, how a transaction is entered by a trading firm, and then how the finally collection is realized by the proprietor or partner or whatever it is. Whatever kind of, or whatever size of the organization is, the internal control are valid. Again, very small point is that it does not make difference even if a proprietor is working, because a proprietor could be a proprietor of a huge company, a huge firm, and it can be, or it can be a small firm. So size, etc., doesn't matter. It is your professional cap system by which you decide that what kind of internal control are in. Now, SA 450, it is regarding evaluation of misstatements identified during the audit. The auditor shall communicate on a timely basis all misstatements accumulated during the audit. Like it may relate to the differences, like post GST, you get the details of purchases appearing in your books of account. So what kind of entries were entered belatedly in your system, you can track it through. Through that, you can check that why, due to, or due to what reason those entries were entered late. Because that all could lead to, ultimately could lead to misstatement. Or you will notice that certain kind of bills, in GST, there are some input tax credits which are available to some set of people and are not available to some set of people. Now, there are, as professionals, we are aware that there are some kind of the bogus billing cases or other cases. So you have to be aware. It is not just the entry in your books of account. it is your application of mind and application of the auditing skills or your professional skepticism. But this all has to be considered to know what kind of misstatements are possible in the financial books of account, or based on your even based on your the otherwise acquired knowledge through environment, through newspaper, through your conferences, or through whatever other sources. So all those sources should help you, should be utilized so as to discharge your duty of the engagement which you have taken in hand and which you are certified. So if the management, if management refuses to correct some or all of the misstatements communicated by the auditor shall obtain understanding of management reasons for not making the corrections and shall take the understanding into the account when evaluating whether the financial statements as a whole are free from rental statement. Another important thing which I would like to share with you here is that there are some cases where in the next year there are some cases, there are some credit notes, there are some subsequent events which have material impact on the circumstances existing at the balance sheet date. So you have to consider those those circumstances. You have to, because till the date you are signing the balance sheet, that area, that date, and beginning from the end of the financial year, that is also the period where you have to consider that whether the events that has occurred after the balance sheet date has got anything which proves that the figures is stated as on the year end are misstated or overstated or less or understated or something like that. Those kind of things. Another important thing is regarding written representation. See, written representation is not a panacea. Written representation is just that the management acknowledges its responsibilities wherever appropriate. It is not in substitution to. It is in addition to what audit procedures you have adopted, carried out, and what papers you have collected, and something like all kinds of stuff. So keep in mind that written representation is getting anything written from the management will absolve you from your responsibility. No, it will not. It will not. Like in case of inventory, now it is an established fact that though the inventory taking is the responsibility of the management, but it is the equal responsibility of the auditor also to check whether the inventory was properly taken, how it was planned, how it was carried out, what kind of raw papers were prepared, what kind of final papers were, how it was valued, and while valuing whether the whether the accounting policy was considered, and so all kind of those things will have to be considered. So it is not that you say that as taken, valued, and certified by the management. Go on Audits. You will have to unlearn something here, and you will have to learn what is prevalent as on today. Now another is audit evidence. It's a very important, absolutely very important, because this is only which will save you from your responsibilities. You have carried out your duties with due diligence. Yes, it will absolve you. But you have just signed it on behalf of somebody, on pretense of somebody, or on relying on somebody. That I don't think will absolve you from your. So requirement sufficient. This phrase is often used in the auditing. Sufficient, appropriate evidence. Sufficient, appropriate audit evidence. Whatever you got. So what is sufficient, what is appropriate has to be decided by the management. Has to be decided by the auditor, because in one circumstances, what is sufficient and appropriate may not be sufficient or appropriate in other circumstances. So there are a number of cases, like if there is a subsidiary, then your parameter will be different. If it is a holding company, your parameter may be different. Branch audit, if you are conducting, your parameters may be very important, and head office may be very less important, because 90% activities are carried out at branch and only 10% at head office, or maybe vice versa. So sufficient appropriate audit evidence is something which has to be remembered by you, which has to be kept in mind throughout the period of audit. Every audit evidence which you are collecting, which you are demanding, has to be considered whether it will be sufficient and whether it will be appropriate. It is not that both are put together. they can be either or they can be in addition to. So my view is that audit evidence is not only has to be sufficient, it has to be appropriate as well. Now, selecting items for testing to obtain audit evidence. When designing tests of control, that internal control and other tests, and tests of the details, the results of the test which you have carried out, the auditor shall determine means of selecting items of testing that are effective in meeting the purpose of the audit procedure. So you have to have the proof that you designed the tests to check the controls, and the results which you have obtained, you have to keep record of those test results, and then how you determine and what was the decisions you taken on the basis of the results of those tests that are like suppose in case of physical verification, sometimes you may choose that you will depute your own team. If there are, let's say, n number of places of your client, you may decide any X number, any A number or B number or any X number, or you can rotate that during the 12 months you may decide. So whatever way you are, but then you know it has to be proved that you had that in mind, that the how they are conducting the physical verification was your concern, and you tried to check it whenever possible, practical. Inconsistency in or doubts or reliability of audit evidences. Yes, if audit evidence obtained from one source is inconsistent with that obtained from the another, the auditor has doubt over the reliability of information to be used as an audit evidence. The auditor shall determine what modification addition to audit procedures are necessary to resolve the matter. Like if the one client is following cash method of accounting, other is following mercantile method of accounting, yes, there can be valid reasons of differences. Or if one client is, or there could be some other reasons as well, like one is considering goods only when it reaches to its command, then they consider it to be the purchases, or the others may not, whereas in your case, because the goods have moved out from your factory and it is the risk and reward have been transferred, so you may treat that as a sale. So I mean, I would like to cut through with this, but the audit evidence is something which is very important. You may consider many other auditing standards as well, but to give more weightage to the audit evidences essays. Then external confirmations. There are three rules which have been quoted here. That an evidence is more reliable if it is obtained from independent source. 2, evidence obtained directly by the auditor is more reliable, though again it is obtained from the independent sources, but if it is obtained by the auditor himself, then it is more reliable. Like in case of many institutions, we see that they do not hand over some document or some results or some certificate to us, rather they send it through post to our addresses, and if it reaches in very first instance to your place, then they consider that whatever information they have collected is borobar. I think we all must have witnessed that when we open the bank account, so maybe the entire formalities are completed by the person visiting your office or your comfort area, but your checkbook, your debit card, or whatever, etc., that comes to your mentioned address, and it has to be delivered within the first occasion. If it is not, then they have a follow-up system to reassure that whatever information. So likewise, as an auditor, you have to decide what kind of what is the quality of external confirmation. And lastly, this audit evidence is more reliable when it exists in documentary form. Now, documentary after this Information Technology Act 2000 is whether it is paper or it is electronic or it is any other medium. Nowadays, cloud is also a medium. Because, like in case of DigiLocker, you and I can find out a lot of things on the spot. Our PAN card or Aadhaar or all other things are available. So whether it is paper, electronic, or any other medium, or there may come be new technologies which you or I may not be aware as on today. related parties. That is very, very important, very, very important. Like in companies law, at places they have mentioned that wherever investment is concerned, it will not be more than 2 layers. Because these related party transactions are such that it becomes very difficult for auditor to take a 360-degree view of what has happened. You are a firm is advancing to X company is advancing to Y company is advancing to Z company is again advancing to key person, or KMP of the company. Ultimately, it is the money of the company which is coming back to the company. Or take very common example that wherever the banks ask you to utilize your limit and give and deposit the money in your current account. So it is nothing that's window dressing. So related party transaction has to be considered from all angles, whether there is some hanky-panky or whether there is some window dressing or whether there is some tax evasion or whether there is some, this dick filling. So related party transactions are absolutely very important, irrespective of whether the applicable financial report. So another thing to add here is that it is not the proprietorship or partnership or joint venture or any any other thing which will make much of the differences, but it is the related party transactions. Even if it is proprietorship firm, the related party transaction could be very relevant for you, because there could be a huge public banking or financial institution borrowing in that firm. Or if it is a public limited company or a private limited company, there could be other considerations. You are responsible to GST department as well. You are responsible to income tax department as well. So this related party transaction has to be, and I think in a lighter manner, even if the relative is your son-in-law, you have to be first an auditor, then to be any other relative. This was quoted by a late Sri C.L. Jawar. SA 580, written representations, very important. And generally, we find that despite when next year's audit is started, at that point of time, written representation pertaining to last year is collected. No comments. I mean, let's do whatever is the time period or whenever you do it, this written representation is something which has to be available. And using the work of internal auditors. The internal auditors work, first of all, you check out whether the area which you are supposed to conduct the audit at is the area where the internal auditors have worked. And then again, you consider that the internal auditors are ultimately not the independent auditors. To what extent you can rely on them, the information that is collected by them, the ratios which have been prepared by them, the observations, as far as the quality of the observation is concerned, you have to carry out some tests that what kind of audit observations are reported and how they are attended by the management as well. So all those things put together. My point of view is this, that internal auditor working is available within the company, but that does not absolve you from your audit duties or audit responsibilities, unless you carry out that what kind of responsibility and activities of the functions were discharged by the internal auditors. There is a reference of SA 315 here. The external auditor does not expect to use the work of the function in obtaining audit evidence. The SA do not override law or regulation that govern an audit of financial statements. Like in some companies, there may be a legal requirement of post audit. There may be a legal requirement of internal audit. So there is a requirement, but how that requirement was attended, you have to check that. And how it was actually conducted, you have to assert yourself. And whether the papers corrected provide you reasonable assurance. The point is that the duplication of the activities is neither the intention of the law nor should be done by the auditor. But he should check out some steps to ascertain that the the way he would have audited, the way he would have collected the paper, the way he would have attended the issues were actually these attended by the internal auditor while carrying out his duties. If we find it so, yes, they are in agreement, then he can rely upon. But this relying upon is also his decision. The internal auditor is not responsible for the tax auditor or for the statutory auditor. They are responsible for the management. So that is a point which one has to keep in mind. Generally हम क्या सोचते हैं, हमें लगता है कि भाई internal audit है, यहाँ पे चलो ये छोड़ देते हैं, internal auditor की जिम्मेदारी हमारी जिम्मेदारी. No, that is not the case. Now, SA 505 modification to the opinion of the independent auditor. There come some certain cases, maybe due to some judgments, or maybe due to some corrections, or maybe due to whatever things. So, if there is a change in the independent auditor's report, then that has to be properly reported and reported. Now, there are some other references which I'll just give reference, and I'll advise you to go through with this. With these auditing standards. One is identify and assessing the risk of material misstatement through understanding the entity and its environment. If it is a shipping company, your understand your approach or towards audit will be different. Whereas if it is a manufacturing, or if it is an export firm, or if it is a service entity, or if it is a electricity distribution company. So you see, at the end of the day, ultimately figures are figures. You have to understand the figures were the actual figures, or they were motivated figures, or they were manipulated figures, or the estimates are based on the best reliable evidences, documents, or estimates are as pleased to the management, or as pleased to the TSWG, those charged with governance. That is something which you have to. An interesting case came to me for an opinion, or for my viewpoint is that one income was recognized in the books of account based on legal opinion obtained from a lawyer, and the amount was a huge amount. It was almost more than 900 crore rupees. So the question was that whether on the strength of an opinion of a lawyer can we book this 900 crore rupees as a revenue. So my reply was that ultimately, see, lawyer is a technical person. The what ratio or what issues were considered by the lawyer while making out his opinion has to be considered by the auditor, number one. Number two, if he feels that he may have a different opinion on the issues or on the ratios which has been accepted by the auditor, then he can ask the management to provide him second opinion. And that second opinion person can also be selected by the auditor, that I will like to get the opinion from this gentleman or that lawyer of size or repute, etc. Third, you have to see that based after that opinion, whether any decision was passed, if there was a decision of the tribunal or the decision of the high court. So every favorable decision wherein the ratio which was started by the lawyer was discussed and was decided in favor of the client, then yes, auditor is justified in taking a view that the income booked in the books of account was correct. And lastly, yes, if there appears to be a strong reason for the auditor to consider that the income should not have been considered as revenue, nothing stops him to change his opinion in 1 year or in subsequent year. It will be difficult for him, but the decision of the auditor or the right of the auditor is not challenged at all. So with that one particular practical case, I wanted to highlight that sufficient appropriate evidences. You have to give reasonable assurance that whatever audit that you are conducting, whether it provides the information in a fair manner, or whatever facts or whatever reports that are asked from you by the income tax authorities through Form 3CD, whether they have been verified, whether they have been correctly reported, or whether there is anything extra which you would like to say in whatever. Likewise, are the analytical procedures, subsequent event means after the date of balance sheet, but before the date of signing of your report. Now, using the work of another auditor, like in case of joint auditors, like in case of internal auditors, like in case of let's say stock auditor or other auditors, because the auditing is something which is based on the institute's publication or other things. Now, it's almost 6 o'clock, some 5-10 minutes, 5 minutes I would like to take for the income tax provisions. Section 271 AAD, which says any proceeding. Now, any proceeding is any proceeding. It could be scrutiny, it could be verification 13036, or it could be search, or it could be appeal, or it could be rectification. So any proceeding. So any proceeding by any person. This section is to provide penalty for false entry in the books of account. So first of all, without prejudice, any proceeding by any person. Now, what kind of cases are covered in 271 AAD is a false entry. Now, what is a false entry? I would like to define it, something which is not a true entry. Now, what is false entry? If you believe that it is a false entry, there are false entries, like suppose I'll give you an example. Your 271, your GSTR 2 provides you a list of purchases which you have made, and which you find that this is factually incorrect. So it is a false entry, not appearing in your books of account, but in the register which has been auto-populated in the portal. Or like I share you one recent example of my client. Nowadays we are receiving AIS or TIS data. So there was one client's case wherein one cooperative bank of Gujarat reported a huge amount of cash deposited in the client's books in client's account. So AIS is showing that a crore plus rupees was deposited in cash in the bank account of the assessee. Now, you have to rebut it. You have to provide an information that it is a false entry, or the information is incorrect, or you have to ask to the bank that provide us the proof how this entry has been reported by you under our pen. So a false entry, wherever you feel that this is a false entry, then you should have a checking process carried out by you to learn that this is a false entry. A normal case of false entries, you and I, we both understand that the year was closed on 31st of March. Today is 29th of June. If there are some entries which are now being passed in your tally, you have track of that. You will have to prove when it is a bill of September 21, why it is being passed in the month of June 2022. So be aware of the cases. So I've spoken a lot about the false entry. Now, second is an omission of entry. An entry which should have been passed, but which you did not pass with the intention to evade tax liability. Then a sum equal to the aggregate amount of such false entry or omitted entry will be the penalty which will be imposed on you. And there's a second clause which which empowers even the Commissioner Appeals, because Commissioner Appeal is one who steps into the shoes of the assessing officer. So following the same analogy, he has also been empowered to initiate the penalties on the person who causes the person. Here the difference is that the first clause was by any person, and second is who causes that person, the person which has been referred in section 1. से मतलब आप समझिए फर्स्ट के अंदर अकाउंटेंट है, तो सेकंड के अंदर वो कौन पर्सन है, वो चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट है. अगर ये प्रूव होता है, ऑडिटर अगर ये प्रूव होता है, देन इट अप्लाइज टू यू एज वेल. और आजकल अपन देखते हैं कई दफे जो क्लाइंट्स है वो तो मैं तो कुछ नहीं जानता साहब, वो सीए ने किया है, बुक्स कहाँ पड़ी है, सीए के पास पड़ी है, बुक्स किसने बनाई है, सीए ने बनाई है. सो ये केसेस के अंदर माय डियर, आई वुड advise you to again reread this section 271 AAD. और false entry की definition बड़ी inclusive definition है, जहाँ पे लिखा है use और intention to use. आपने इसको use कर लिया इस entry को, या आपका intention ही ऐसा था. तो चाहे फोर्स्ड है, फॉल्सिफाइड डॉक्यूमेंट्स है। अब 31 मार्च को आप कोई भी एक्सपेंसेस के टीडीएस काट रहे हैं, जमा करा रहे हैं, आपके पास कोई इनवॉइस नहीं है, कोई ईबे बिल नहीं है, कोई और एक्टिविटीज नहीं है, देयर आर नो अदर corroborative evidences to prove that दो expenses हुआ था, etc., 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 then those are the potentially fit cases where the 271 AAD can get attracted. 271J, penalty for furnishing incorrect information in reports or certificates. आप ये नहीं कह सकते ये information इसने दिया था या उसने दिया था. Whatever information that has come to you, you are an expert. It is expected that you will furnish, that you will be able to detect what is incorrect information or what is the information which is half truth. So make sure that whatever information you are certifying, furnishing is correct. 276 capital C, willful attempt to evade taxes, etc. A person who willfully, now what is willfully? Is again, you will have to prove that it was not willful, it was inadvertent mistake, it was bona fide mistake, or it was based on some negligence in the part of auditing process carried out by you or by ignorance of some other things. Like you forgot to get external confirmations. That cannot tantamount to willful attempt. Yes, if you are aware that it was due to this reason, then we will. I'll prefer you can raise your hands. You can pass on your question to the chairman, but I will give you sufficient time and spare some 10-15 minutes. We will discuss all those issues. Now, with this brief introduction to a few sections of the Income Tax Act, now I'm moving to CARO. That is again the main area, and I would like to spend some 15-20 minutes to that area. Now, as far as fixed asset is concerned, that have been renamed as property, plant and equipment, PPE. And another set which is added is intangible assets. The intangible assets has also to be verified. My friends have asked me questions how to verify the intangible assets. It is not the physical verification. Sometimes you can by punching the passcodes, by checking the purchases bills, through online checking procedures, you can know, you can come to know, you can identify, you can reasonably find, reassure yourself that intangible assets exists. And intangible asset is not just the patent, copyright or something else, but it is the software also. Like many softwares, you have to purchase the licensed version of it. That are also part of the intangible assets. Then title deeds of all the immovable properties are to be checked, other than the properties where the company is lessee or the lease agreement will be executed. Now, in few cases, like in cases of listed companies, the sugar mill was in existence for almost some 70 years or before that, just before independence. So the original title deeds are not available. They are neither available with the government nor available with the company or with the promoter of the company. So those are the cases where where you will have to get opinion of the lawyers or of the persons that it is only the company which is the owner of the immovable property. So title deed is not just only the title deed which you and I just refer to, but the cases also where the title deeds are not available, like in case of many charitable institutions, though it is not subject matter of this, you will find that there are no title deeds available. So it is a format in which this information has to be given. As far as revaluation is concerned, if it is more than the 10% of the aggregate or net carrying value, then you have to report it. Or whether, now this is very important, is whether any proceeding have been initiated or are pending against the company for holding any Benami property under the Benami Code. The Income Tax Act is the act through which this act is being monitored. So Benami, as far as Benami properties are concerned, if appropriately disclosed the details in your financial books, financial We'll come to this query later because I think that requires additional discussion on our part. The second clause, in the opinion of the auditor, the coverage and procedure of verification by the management is appropriate. So you need to justify, as far as the physical verification of inventory is concerned, the coverage and procedure. It has to be appropriate. There are plants which where the production is continuous. There are plants which are seasonal. There are plants which are located throughout the country. There are plants which can, for which certain important, counters are available, like newspaper industry. So a counter is set to 0 and number of copies are printed. So a counter is always available. That how many number of copies were printed, or how many, there are a lot of things. So you have to understand the adequacy of the coverage and the right procedure which has been followed. What is your opinion, whether the procedure was appropriate or not appropriate? So that is your judgment, and you have to record that judgment. So now, whether during the year the company is sanctioned, there's the second requirement. Sanctioned working capital limit. One condition is sanctioned working capital limit. You might not have used a single paisa, but if it is sanctioned working capital, it is in excess of 5 crore rupees. In aggregate means the CC, book debts, non-fund based, whatever it is. So it is all one condition. Sanctioned working limits. Second is 5 crore in aggregate. Third is on the basis of security of current assets. If it is LAP, loan against property, it is not covered. Whether the quarterly returns of a statement filed by the company with such banks are in agreement with books of account of company, if not, give details. Here I would say that if the difference is not material, or if the difference is based on the reasons which you find are reasonable, like there are many credit notes which will be accrued to you at the year end of. There are many discounts. There are many benefits which will be available. So due to that, your inventory is overstated during the year at each month level. Then there is no wrong reporting. So that is again an area. The idea is that there should not be a huge difference between what you are reporting to banks or financial institutions, either due to temporarily availing more credit limits, or due to your negligence, whatever be the reason, the auditor has to consider what papers have been submitted to. Earlier, we were ignoring those papers. That no, ये तो बैंक को दिया हुआ है, मैनेजमेंट जाने, मैनेजर जाने, हमें क्या लेना है? हमें तो जो बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट है उसके अंदर जो रिकॉर्डेड है वो लेना है, क्योंकि बैंक का तो रिपोर्टेड फिगर्स, बैंक का तो जो बनाया हुआ फिगर उसमें से रिपोर्टिंग हुआ है, तो हमें उसको काय को कंसीडर करना है. तो यहाँ आपको रिपोर्ट करने की जरूरत है. और ये एक तरीके से आप उसको ऐसा समझिए, जो रिपोर्टिंग की जरूरत है वो इसलिए कि बिकॉज ये एज ए अर्ली वार्निंग सिग्नल काम करेगा कि इस कंपनी की हेल्थ आज जैसी है कल भी वैसी रहेगी या नहीं रहेगी, या क्या चेंज आ सकते हैं. Then there is a third clause that is regarding the investments in provided and guarantee security, whether during the year the company has provided loans or provided advances in the nature of loans or issued guarantee, etc. ये सबका disclosure है. पहले ये खाली loans के ऊपर थे, अब आप काफी बड़ा एरिया इसके अंदर शामिल किया गया है. So the aggregate, I think छोटे केसेस में ये एप्लीकेबल ज्यादा नहीं होगा, तो I think और सेल्फ एक्सप्लेनेटरी भी है, तो मैं कंसिडरिंग टाइम मैं इसको आगे बढ़ सकता हूँ. यहाँ ये इम्पोर्टेंट है, whether any loan or advances in the nature of loan, आपने एडवांस तो दिया माल परचेज करने के लिए या whatever name, लेकिन वो ट्रांजेक्शन ही नहीं हुआ. So it is the advance in the nature of loan granted which has fallen due during the year, has been renewed or extended, of fresh loans granted to settle. ये जिसको ये I mean this is called harvesting, green harvesting or whatever, a good name was given to that. This overdues of existing loans, जिसमें पुराने लोन का रीपेमेंट करने के लिए नया लोन दे दिया ताकि पुराना लोन टाइम से पेमेंट हो गया और बाद में आपने नया लोन दिया. Those are the cases we to consider and report. If so specified, aggregate amounts of dues renewed or extended or settled by fresh loans and the percentage of the aggregate to the total loans कितना ऐसा हुआ है, क्योंकि कंपनी को अपनी खुद की इंटरनल अप्रूवल से, फ्रेश फंड, फ्रेश मनी एलोकेशन से, फ्रेश फंडिंग से वो चुकाना चाहिए था। कंपनी नहीं चुका भाई, बैंक नहीं दिया। यस, यहाँ पे बीच में जो बिकॉज ऑफ द आरबीआई, बिकॉज ऑफ द कोविड और बिकॉज ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट गाइडलाइंस जो एडिशनल लोन सैंक्शन हुए हैं वो यहाँ पे कवर नहीं होंगे, बिकॉज they were not in this, they were not of this nature. Similarly, whether the company has granted any loans or advances in the nature of loan, either repayable on demand. This is very serious. Either repayable on demand or without specifying any terms or period of repayment. If so, specify the aggregate amount, percentage thereof of the total loans granted, aggregate amount of loans granted to promoters, related parties, and defined in structure. Demand पे payable loan नहीं हो सकता. Yes, but accommodation finance for a day or two, yes, that is not the cases. Some may have a different view over this. We can, if necessary, we can discuss that. Within the group, there are some transactions which are there. So I'm not saying कि हर रोज ऐसा हो तो ऐसा हो सकता है, but you know, like giving of the funds. Like Anil Ambani के case में, he can borrow money from his son or from his brother, or a holding can borrow from the subsidiary, or subsidiary can advance to holding. So those are cases. So one has to consider that what was the nature of that advance, whether it was in the, if it was in the nature of loan, and that too either repayable on demand or without that, then you have to consider that. But if it is only accommodation finance, I think I have a different view on this. ये मैंने आपके लिए, लोगों के लिए रेफरेंसेस और इशू फॉर डिस्कशन नोट कर रखे हैं. Like these are the technical words, I would say these are the significant words used in these clauses, which will be very helpful while carrying out your CARO audits. These are technical words, I would say. ये black है, पुराना period, पुराना clause as it is है, इसलिए मैं इसको छोड़ रहा हूँ. Clause 5, in respect of deposits accepted by the management or amounts which are deemed to be the deposits. इसके cases के अंदर जो है ये deposit, यहाँ पे बड़ा important है word, deposit to include any receipt of money by way of deposit or loan or in any form by a company, but does not include prescribed, जैसे RBI define करती है regarding 45S and other things, और अभी आप लोगों ने सामने DPT3 फाइन करने की प्रोसेस में आप चल ही रहे होंगे. सेक्शन 3(6), ये पुराना वाला ही सेक्शन है. नया 3(7) के अंदर GST नया ऐड किया है. Now this 8 important है, and whether any transaction not recorded in books of account. Books of account means जो आपने 3CD में दे रखा है, जो आपने बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट के रूप में अपनी लिस्ट आउट कर रखा है, have been surrendered or disclosed as income during the year in the tax assessment under the Income Tax Act 1996. आप ये नहीं कह सकते in order to buy peace आपने ये surrender किया. Point है कि जब आपने surrender किया तो that was the transaction which was not recorded in your books of account. So if in those cases, if so, whether previously unrecorded income has been properly recorded in the books of account during the year. There is a guidance note of the institute which helps you whether the company has defaulted in the payment of loans or other borrowing or in the payment of interest thereon. ये फॉर्मेट दिया हुआ है, इसमें इंफॉर्मेशन देना है. Now ये एज ए अर्ली वार्निंग सिग्नल काम कर रहा है. Whether the company is a declared willful defaulter by any bank or financial institution or other lender, like JP or this famous Kingfisher or Malia or whatever. Whether term loans were applied for the purposes for which loans were obtained. If not, the amount of loans so diverted and the purpose for which it is used may be reported. Now this is, मैं आपको सिर्फ प्रोपर्टीज के केस में ही बता रहा था, और ये आप देखिए उसका जनरेशन कहाँ हुआ है, कारो. कि अगर टर्म लोन लिया है जिस मकसद के लिए, अगर वो उस मकसद के लिए यूज नहीं किया गया है, then also you have to. So अच्छा, वो मकसद क्या होता है? Whenever you get term loan, there is a proposal. There are purposes which are mentioned in that application, and you have to see कि वो payment directly supplier को हुआ है क्या, और वो supplier को हुआ है तो वो install हो गई है क्या. Recently, my partner attended one program wherein it was cautioned by the investigating auditors or those kind of professionals. The capital work in progress is the area where most of the such kind of irregularities can be observed. So this year, whenever you are auditing the capital work in progress, you should be extra careful about the aging of the capital work in progress, about the progress of capital work in progress, to what extent it has been carried out. Okay, ऐसा तो नहीं है कोई CWIP बाद में cancel हो गया. But it can also be used for the purpose of overstatement of the investment in the plant and machinery and other things. So my point is, term loan were applied for the purpose. ये भी अब आपको देखना रहेगा. Whether funds were raised as short term, अब ये है short term basis के ऊपर आपने लिया, long term में इस्तेमाल कर लिया है, तो ये nature और amount आपको indicate करना रहेगा. Because ultimately ये अगर आपने indicate नहीं किया और गलत prove होता है, तो then you are then the question will be asked to you. Whether the company has taken any funds from any entity or person on account of or to meet the obligations of its subsidiary, associate, joint ventures. If so, details thereof with the nature of such transaction and the amount of in each case. So these are the, these are the requirements. अगर वो ज़्यादा requirement को अपने touch किया तो ये CARO के ऊपर lecture हो जाएगा. Whereas I want to restrict it to auditing standards. My point is कि आप समझिए कि आपका ये जो responsibilities हैं, वो responsibilities आपके scope को इतना बढ़ा रही हैं कि जब तक आप engagement letter को अच्छे से नहीं बनाएंगे, audit program को अच्छे से नहीं बनाएंगे, जो procedure आप carry out करें उसके audit documents आपके पास में नहीं होंगे, मैनेजमेंट रिप्रेजेंटेशन लेटर है, एनालिटिकल जो आपने कंपैरिजंस किए हैं, थर्ड पार्टी कंफर्मेशंस हैं, ऑडिट सैंपलिंग है, ये सब चीजों को अगर आप एक्चुअली में कैरी आउट नहीं करेंगे ग्राउंड पे, देन यू विल नॉट बी एबल टू प्रूव द क्वालिटी ऑफ योर ऑडिट. Then it is with reference to the fraud we have spoken earlier, whether the auditor has considered whistleblowers' complaints.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Whether there has been a default in the payment of interest on deposits or repayment thereof for any period, and if so, the details thereof. And there are 21 points. Whether the company has internal audit commensurate with the size and nature of its business. Whether, sir.
सर एक चीज बताइए, मान लीजिए जो एंगेजमेंट लेटर है, क्या हम 2-3 साल एक साथ बना सकते हैं क्या?
मैं 1 मिनट में खत्म करता हूँ, फिर अपन क्वेश्चंस के लिए कर देते हैं. आई थिंक दिस इज ऑलरेडी 6:20. आप बोले तो
ठीक है सर.
आप बोले तो ज्यादा पीरियड के लिए टाइम रख लेते हैं, क्योंकि अगर आधा घंटा भी अपने पास में रहेगा तो क्वेश्चंस पे बात करने में मजा आएगा. पर मैं एक दफे एक कर्टेन रेजर का कर्टेन रेजर से इस्तेमाल करता हूँ. आई शर्मा जी, I'll come back to you.
ठीक है सर, ठीक है.
Whether the company has conducted any NBFC or housing finance activity without a valid certificate of registration from the Reserve Bank of India as per RBI. Whether the company is a core investment company, CIC, as defined by the regulations made by the RBI. If so, whether it continues to fulfill the criteria of CIC. एक ही CIC, then whether the company has incurred cash losses in the financial year and in the immediately preceding financial year. If so, they state the amount of the cash losses. अगर इस current year में आपके cash losses नहीं है, तो भी my personal view is that if अगर immediately preceding financial year के अंदर cash losses थे, तो आपको report करना पड़ेगा. Clause 18, whether there has been any registration of statutory auditors, resignation of the statutory auditors during the year. If so, whether the auditor has taken into consideration the issues, objections, or concerns raised by the outgoing authorities. एक इंटरेस्टिंग केस मैं आपके साथ शेयर करता हूँ. In one case, in case of listed company, the auditors were appointed over a period less than 5 years. The MCA raised a question to the auditor, to the management. To the management कि ये जो appointment है वो आपने less than 5 year का कैसे किया? What was the reason? ये आपका 5 साल से कम का क्यों हुआ? So it is not only the period, but also it is the recognition. When I was in AASB, there was a reason carried out by agency तो उसमें रीजंस आते हैं कि ड्यू टू प्रोफेशनल रीजंस, ड्यू टू अनअवॉइडेबल रीजंस. Those unavoidable reasons, professional reasons are no reason at all. You have to clear it. आपका peer review नहीं हुआ है, that could be the area. आपका partner ने छोड़ दिया, that could be the reason. और किसी की death हो गई, that could be the reason. Their difference of opinion with the management cannot be a reason. If that is so, then you have to, the incoming auditor has to appropriately disclose in its report. And last 2 points. On the basis of financial ratios, now in notes to accounts, you have to mention a lot of ratios, and उस ratio में अगर किसी में भी 25% से ज़्यादा का change है, either in favor or against, then you have to give reasons कि वो ratios में ऐसा फर्क क्यों है, कि कहीं कोई misstatement, window dressing, कोई wrong presentation, कोई और reason से तो नहीं हो रहा है वो. Then whether in respect of other than ongoing project, the company has transferred unspent amount CSR के केस में फंड जो है वो आपने CSR का पैसा CSR में ही काम में लेना है और वहीं किसके अलावा. Last point, whether there have been any qualification or adverse remark by the respective auditors in the CARO reports of the companies included in the consolidated financial statement. Years indicate the details of companies and the paragraph numbers of CARO report, etc. एक क्वेश्चन आया था कि सब्सिडियरी कंपनी में कारो के अंदर एडवर्स रिमार्क है, तो होल्डिंग कंपनी जब अपनी कारो फाइनल कर रही है तो कारो का जो एडवर्स पॉइंट है वो उसमें आएगा या नहीं आएगा. Because CARO का जो adverse reporting है, which is based on facts and which was material when the auditor of that company finalized the CARO report, therefore the adverse comment given in that will also be reflected in the holding company's CARO, because उसमें आपको दोबारा विजिट करने की जरूरत नहीं है. And these are a list of important sections, rules, etc., which you could for which you can find the references. Now, Amit ji, anyone who is hearing me, yes. Now, I will like to be now online and available to all of you. Lokesh.
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन था आपसे एक कि जो ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट लेटर है. हेलो, आर यू गेटिंग द वॉइस?
आई एम गेटिंग योर वॉइस.
तो सर मेरा ये क्वेश्चन था कि हम ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट लेटर फॉर 3 इयर्स ले सकते हैं एक साथ?
ऑडिटर्स का लेटर, सॉरी,
ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट लेटर जो होता है वो हर
साल का देंगे. ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट 1 साल का ही देंगे.
ओके,
क्योंकि आप जितनी आपकी रिपोर्ट होगी ना, स्टॉप शेयर, जितनी आप यहाँ पे स्टॉप शेयर, जितनी आपकी रिपोर्टिंग होगी ना, जितना आपका रिपोर्टिंग होगा ना डियर, जैसे एक साल की आपकी ऑडिट रिपोर्ट है या 2 साल की ऑडिट रिपोर्ट है, उतना ही आपका एंगेजमेंट लेटर्स हो.
उतने एंगेजमेंट लेटर, ठीक है.
और अरे कनेक्शन, आपको ये कनेक्शन का इश्यूज तो नहीं आया था ना अभी?
नहीं सर.
अच्छा, मे बी इतने ऑफिस में कोई एक एरिया में सिग्नल अच्छा होता है, किसी एक एरिया में बड़ा वीक होता है.
मैं रामदास जी को रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि
हाँ शर्मा जी, ये रामोदा जी has been my chairman. When I was
sir.
in the Jaipur branch, he was my chairman. So it will be learning from
Sir,
you.
it was a very nice और deep learning by you. और आपने बहुत कम समय में और बहुत अच्छा हमको बताया, और we are thankful to you. और वैसे भी मैं I am very much thankful to you, क्योंकि आपकी चेयरमैनशिप में मैंने जो है ऑडिटिंग स्टैंडर्ड और अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड को ही पूरे CIRC रीजन में खूब हमने घुमाया है और बहुत लेक्चर दिए हमने आपके साथ में, आपके सानिध्य में और आपकी गाइडेंस में. मेरे पास 2-3 इश्यूज है सर, जो मैं I want to elaborate.
I would just like to interrupt. I would say that R.A. Sharma is a man with a spine. अगर ये ऑडिट में कोई भी इशू होता है तो irrespective of the person involved, he is a person who will always remember 3 things: excellence, independence and integrity. With that brief introduction about R.A. Sharma ji, please sir.
सर मेरे को जो परेशानी आ रही है ऑडिट में, वो सबसे पहले आ रही है केस इन हैंड में. केस इन हैंड एग्जॉर्बिटेंटली अगर कोई मेंटेन करती है पार्टी,
सर,
और कीपिंग द केस इन हैंड विथ द पार्टी, they are withdrawing subsequently from the banks, और on the other side उनकी जो liability है बैंक में वो NPA हो रहे हैं, बैंक में चुका नहीं पा रहे हैं, उधर ब्याज लग रहा है, इसके बावजूद भी वो exorbitant केस मेंटेन करता है, तो क्या ऑडिटर की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है हाउ टू रिपोर्ट डेट? पहली बात तो ये। दूसरी बात ये है कि क्योंकि इसके बारे में अपना जो गाइडेंस नोट है केस इन हैंड के बारे में, वो ये कहता है कि ऑडिटर हैज टू फिजिकली वेरीफाई द केस इन हैंड, और वो फिजिकल वेरिफिकेशन अगर आप 31 मार्च को नहीं कर पाते हैं तो एट द टाइम ऑफ ऑडिट, ड्यूरिंग द कोर्स ऑफ ऑडिट, यू कैन वेरीफाई ऑन एनी डेट एंड डेट बैक योर केस इन हैंड एज ऑन 31 मार्च। इसको आप कोरिलेट कर ले, ये ऐसा गाइडेंस नोट है। दूसरी बात आती है बैंक बैलेंस पे। मैं वेरीफाई करता हूँ सर, तो वो मेरे पास में बैंक स्टेटमेंट लेके आते हैं, तो क्या मेरे को बैंक से कोई सर्टिफिकेट लेने की आवश्यकता है क्या? क्योंकि बैंक बैलेंस शीट जो आते हैं आजकल ऑनलाइन आते हैं, ऑनलाइन को अपन जानते हैं कि वो बोर्ड से वो उसको वापस कन्वर्ट करके कभी भी अमेंड भी कर सकता है, कुछ भी कर सकता है, और जिसको फ्रॉड करना हो तो कैसे भी कर लेगा। तो उस पे अपन रिलाई करें या वेदर वी शुड इंसिस्ट फॉर बैंक सर्टिफिकेट्स। तीसरी बात जो मेरे को प्रॉब्लम आती है सर, वो आती है विथ रिगार्ड टू द फिजिकल वेरिफिकेशन ऑफ क्लोजिंग स्टॉक, क्योंकि अपना गाइडेंस नोट ये कह रहा है कि ऑडिटर शुड एसोसिएट विद द फिजिकल वेरिफिकेशन एट द टाइम ऑफ टेकिंग फिजिकल वेरिफिकेशन बाय द ऑडिटी। जब मैं 31 मार्च को नहीं कर पाता हूं तो मेरी ड्यूटी गाइडेंस नोट के हिसाब से ये बनती है कि मैं ऑडिट के दौरान कभी भी किसी भी डेट पे सेलेक्टेड आइटम्स का फिजिकल वेरिफिकेशन करूं और उसको उस बैलेंस को वापस ले जाऊं 31 मार्च पे। इसके बारे में आपकी क्या ओपिनियन है? इसके अलावा जो सर डेटर्स और क्रेडिटर्स के बैलेंसेज हैं, उनको अपन को एनालाइज करना चाहिए एट द अप टू द डेट ऑफ ऑडिट, कि उनमें मूवमेंट बाद में हुए या नहीं हुए, अगर उसमें ट्रांजेक्शन जो हो रहे हैं वो नॉर्मल है या नहीं है। अगर नहीं है तो अपने को कंफर्मेशन के लिए इंसिस्ट करना चाहिए, जो एक्सटर्नल कंफर्मेशन का अपना ऐसे बोलता है। मैं लास्ट पॉइंट जो बताना चाह रहा हूं सर, कि कंपनीज एक्ट में जो फ्रॉड की डेफिनेशन है सेक्शन 447 में, उसको कम से कम, क्योंकि आज अपने लोग इंटरेस्टेड कम रहते हैं ऐसे के अंदर, पार्टिसिपेंट कम है, कम से कम एक बार पढ़ लें जरूर। क्योंकि जैसे आपने फरमाया कि पहले बाय मैनेजमेंट और बाय एम्प्लॉइज के द्वारा ही फ्रॉड का बात करते थे, अब तो फ्रॉड इतना ओपन कर दिया सर कि चाहे उससे आपको गेन होता है या लॉस होता है किसी को भी, तो भी उससे कोई मतलब नहीं है। केवल जो है ना अनऑथोराइज्ड एंट्री, एब्यूज ऑफ पावर और सम फॉल्सिफिकेशन ऑफ अकाउंट्स, कोई भी ऐसा ट्रांजैक्शन हो जिसमें आपको डाउट होता हो कि इसमें फ्रॉड होना है, तो ऑडिटर को रिपोर्ट करना चाहिए या नहीं करना चाहिए। अब रिपोर्टिंग करते हैं तो उसमें बहुत सारा ये जो है फॉर्मेलिटीज है, 1 करोड़ से ऊपर है तो आपको एमसीए को रिपोर्ट करना है, इसके ऊपर ऐसे 240 है, गाइडेंस नोट है। और जो सबसे ज्यादा जो एम्ब्रेसिंग है वो ये है कि अगर ऑडिटर चूक जाता है तो उसमें पेनल्टी 5 लाख रुपए है। ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है सर, कि आपकी ऑडिट फीस तो 50,000 है और पेनल्टी 5 लाख है। कंपनीज एक्ट इज वेरी सेंसिटिव इन दिस इश्यू। तो ये मेरे 4-5 इश्यू है जिसपे आप और ड्वेल अपॉन करें सर प्लीज।
इनफैक्ट मैं ऐसे कहूँगा कि शर्मा जी ने काफी मेरी हेल्प करी कि एज फार एज फ्रॉड इज कंसर्न, वो वैसे तो आपने इतनी नॉलेज दी है कि आई बिलीव कि वो तो आप रेफर करेंगे, लॉ को रेफर करेंगे तो यू नो ऑटोमेटिकली सिक्स सेंस आपका जो है ना वो एक अलार्म क्रिएट हो जाएगा ऑटोमेटिकली। तो फ्रॉड का एक जो टॉपिक है उसके ऊपर तो अपन सबसे लास्ट में बात करते हैं। मैं सबसे पहले पॉइंट पे आता हूँ, कैश वाले पॉइंट। See, there are certain kinds of businesses. There are certain kinds of businesses. Like जैसे आप समझिए कि मैं कहता हूँ कि वेजिटेबल्स का बिजनेस है, सब्जी बेचने वाले का बिजनेस है। We conducted one branch audit in Mumbai once upon a time. तो वहाँ बैंक वाले बोलते थे कि वो फलाना आदमी का हमारे यहाँ अकाउंट है, उसके यहाँ तो बंडल्स के बंडल्स पड़े रहते हैं, हमें जितनी जरूरत पड़ती है कैश में वहाँ से उठा लाते हैं। So there is a possibility of a business being run in cash. Number one. Number two, there is a possibility of जैसे आप एग्रीकल्चर की आज की डेट में बात करें कि एग्रीकल्चर के किसान जो है वो सिर्फ कैश को मानता है, इसके अलावा किसी को नहीं मानता। उसको अगर माल देना है तो आपको कैश है तो आपको माल देगा। आप जब कच्चे आड़ती हो, पक्के आड़ती हो, कुछ भी आपका स्टेटस हो, अगर आप कैश आपके पास में है, अब आप कोई सा देयरफॉर गुजरात के अंदर वी हैव अ लॉट ऑफ यू नो दिस कोऑपरेटिव बैंक्स, तो वो एक फैक्टर है कैश के लिए। अपन अगर कैश ज्यादा है तो आपको कंसीडर करना है कि वो एसएससी का नेचर क्या है। तीसरा, आप देखिए ये जो जितने भी एओपीज हैं, आप ठेकेदार कह लीजिए, एओपी का कैश के इन्वॉल्वमेंट जहाँ भी होता है, शायद आपके ठेकेदार की बात करें या औरों की बात करें, सो देयर आर सम काइंड ऑफ बिजनेसेस जहाँ पे कैश का इन्वॉल्वमेंट है, उसको आप डिनाई नहीं कर सकते। तो अब वो क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ पे जगह जगह बात है रीजनेबल एश्योरेंस एंड सफिशिएंट अप्रोप्रिएट एविडेंसेस, तो आपको ये देखना है कि जिस क्लाइंट के यहाँ ह्यूज कैश आ रहा है उसकी पॉसिबिलिटीज क्या है। किसी पेट्रोल पंप के पास में गिवन डेज के ऊपर तो 80% 90% जो है वो चेक से पैसा आता था, क्रेडिट कार्ड से पैसा आता था, ऑनलाइन मोडिंग से पैसा आता था। ईयर एंड के ऊपर उसके पास में कैश इन सेल का पैसा ज्यादा आ रहा है। और या दूसरे अदर कोरोबोरेटिव एविडेंसेस क्या है जिससे हम ये प्रूव कर सके, सिद्ध कर सकें कि कैश जो उनके पास में उतना पड़ा हुआ है उसकी पॉसिबिलिटी है क्या। ये नंबर 1। नंबर 2, अपन देखेंगे जब नोटबंदी हुई थी उस वक्त कोई बोले कि मेरे पास 100 रुपीज के नोट्स है, डिनोमिनेशन की डिटेल दो, तो आई बिलीव जैसे एग्रीकल्चर इनकम के केसेस के अंदर देयर वाज ए स्टडी जिसमें बोला कि इंडिया में इतना सब्जी पैदा हो गई जितनी तो मतलब कागज के अंदर इतनी पैदा हो गई जितनी तो इंडिया में पैदा नहीं हुई। एग्रीकल्चर इनकम के हिसाब से अपन बात करते हैं, और किसी किसी के तो बंगले की बालकनी के अंदर ही 5-5, 6-6 करोड़ की गोभी पैदा हो जाती है। So you know, again that is the corroborative evidences where we have to consider कि उसके कैश होने की पॉसिबिलिटी क्या है। But these are few examples. अब वो कैश होते हुए भी बैंक से क्यों निकाल रहा है? So there are you know, कई दफे हमने डेबिट कार्ड 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 इशू करा रखे हैं, या प्लेसेस अलग अलग हैं, या कई दफे लाइक इलेक्शन की वो चल रही है, इलेक्शन का पीरियड चल रहा है। अब कैरिंग कैश फ्रॉम वन प्लेस टू अनदर प्लेस कुड बी रिस्की, यू मे बी रिक्वायर्ड टू एक्सप्लेन, या प्लेन में ले जाना है तो देयर कुड बी आजकल स्कैनर ये वो। सो अगेन यू हैव टू कंसीडर मतलब कि व्हाट काइंड ऑफ एक्सप्लेनेशन द मैनेजमेंट इज गिविंग टू यू कि वो कैश इन ज्यादा क्यों है। और अगेन देयर कम कोर्ट डिसीजंस कि भाई मैनेज बिजनेस कैसे चलाया जाएगा, दिस विल बी डिसाइडेड बाय द मैनेजमेंट, जो either the management or TSWG, those charged with governance, they have to decide कि वो कैसे चलना है। या कई दफा ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि आपने एक सर्टेन कैश इन हैंड इसलिए मेंटेन करके रखा है क्योंकि आपका बिजनेस का नेचर ऐसा है। जैसे मैं आपको बताऊं रियल एस्टेट कंपनीज के अंदर, रियल एस्टेट कंपनीज के अंदर मान लीजिए 500, 600, 700, 800 करोड़ रुपए का टर्नओवर है या बहुत बड़ी बुकिंग्स है, तो वो लोगों के लिए 10-20 करोड़ रुपए का कैश इन हैंड मेंटेन करना, या आप समझिए गोल्ड मेंटेन करना, या एकदम से वो जो कन्वर्ट हो सकता हो कैश के अंदर वो मेंटेन करना इज क्वाइट नेचुरल, क्वाइट नॉर्मल। तो मेरा कहने का मतलब आपका जो एक ऑडिटर के हिसाब से लाइफ का एक्सपीरियंस है उसके हिसाब से अगर आपको लगता है कि वो कैश उसके पास हो सकता है, देन यू हैव टू डॉक्यूमेंट दैट, क्योंकि ये फेस ऑफ द बैलेंस शीट के ऊपर ये क्वेश्चन मार्क आने वाला है। आपसे कोई भी आदमी पूछने वाला है कि ये इतना कैश इन हैंड था और इतनी बैंक की लाइबिलिटीज पड़ी थी, व्हाई डिड नॉट ऑडिटर यू नो। अच्छा और कुछ नहीं, आप एम्फेसिस ऑफ मैटर दे दें, क्वालिफिकेशन नहीं दे रहे तो एम्फेसिस ऑफ मैटर तो दें, कोई जस्टिफिकेशन तो दें। तो मेरा कहने का समझिए बिकॉज ये एक ऐसा इशू है कि जो ऑन द फेस ऑफ बैलेंस शीट एज एन आउटसाइडर मुझे गले नहीं उतर रहा, इतना कैश इन हैंड कैसे हो सकता है, और कौन समझदार आदमी कैश इन हैंड रखेगा और उतना अनसिक्योर्ड लोन भी रखेगा। बट आई विल नॉट रूल बिकॉज ऑफ माई एक्सपर्ट नॉलेज, बिकॉज ऑफ माई एक्सपीरियंस, आई विल नॉट ट्राई टू रूल आउट द रीजनेबल रीजन बीइंग ऑफर्ड बाय द मैनेजमेंट। वो पता नहीं उसके दिमाग में क्या चल रहा है, क्या प्रॉब्लम है। और कई दफे क्या होता है कि वो जो एजेड लोग होते हैं, मतलब जो यू नो सीनियर सिटीजन्स है, अभी तो एमडीएच वाले दादाजी रहे नहीं, मे बी एमडीएच वाले दादाजी की रिक्वायरमेंट होती होगी कि 50 करोड़ तो मेरा फंड अलग से ही रहना चाहिए, है ना, मेरे बच्चों का भरोसा नहीं है, इनका भरोसा नहीं है। सो वो कंपनी के अंदर आपको वो सिर्फ ये करना पड़ेगा कैश इन चेस्ट करके अलग कॉलम खोल करके, और वो 50 करोड़ की डिनोमिनेशन फलाना ढिमका वो अदर और प्रिकॉशन लेकर के आपको 50 करोड़ वाला कैश इन हैंड दिखाना पड़ जाएगा। यू नो, तो कई दफे यू नो एज एन ऑडिटर आपके सामने बहुत डिफिकल्टीज आती हैं। आपको कॉन्फिडेंशियल पेरोल इज अगेन ए चैलेंज कि कोई चाहता है कि भाई हम सैलरी दे, बुक्स में तो आए, लेकिन एक दूसरे को पता ना चले कि इसको कितनी सैलरी दी, इसको सैलरी नहीं दी। सिमिलर कैश इज आल्सो ये थिंग। तो मेरे ख्याल से शर्मा जी ये तो फैक्चुअल से रिलेटेड एक इशू। ना बैंक की आप बात कर रहे थे, तो देर आर, यस, आई एम फुली इन एग्रीमेंट विद यू. We just can't rely 100% on the type of balance certificate being made available to us. We just can't, because वो अपने अभी स्लाइड्स में हमने डिस्कस किया था कि आपको कोई कंफर्मेशन मिला है, वो इम्पोर्टेंट है, नंबर 1. नंबर 2, आपके खुद के एफर्ट से मिला है, और ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है. और अगर वो डॉक्यूमेंट राइटिंग, मतलब कोई डॉक्यूमेंट के फॉर्म में मिला है, पीडीएफ मिला है, इलेक्ट्रॉनिकली मिला है, कैसे मिला, तो और ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है. तो ये तीनों चीजें हैं. तो जो गलती सत्यम में हुई थी वो गलती हम ना करें कम से कम. मतलब वो जो बैलेंस है उसका सोर्स क्या है, वो डायरेक्टली हमारे पास में आया है और इट कैन बी रीचेक्ड. तो ऑलराइट, मैनेजमेंट ने दिया. एंड नाउ कमिंग टू द जो कंफर्मेशन वाला एक इशू आपने रेज किया था, कि वो तो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट इशू है शर्मा जी, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट इशू है. मतलब इस जमाने के अंदर आई थिंक इन द करंट टाइम्स, क्योंकि एडवांस इज इन द नेचर ऑफ लोन्स. अब कोई एडवांस है तो वही इन द नेचर ऑफ लोन क्यों नहीं कहा जाए उसको. सो दैट इज अच्छा, क्रेडिटर है तो वो एक्चुअली में क्रेडिटर है या वो अनसिक्योर्ड लोन है या और क्या है, अगेन यू हैव टू कंसीडर दैट. तो मेरा कहने का कि इंपॉर्टेंट केसेस लाइक आपके सन्डी डेटर्स क्रेडिटर्स जो है, वो उसका सर्टेन परसेंटेज, मे बी सम 62, सम 60% और प्लस माइनस 20%, या अगर कोई इंडिविजुअल बैलेंस ही अगर आपको मोर देन 10% हो तो टोटल डेटर्स क्रेडिटर्स है, तो बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट इशू बन जाता है. वो तो आपको तो उसका बैलेंस लेना ही चाहिए, रिकंसाइल भी करना चाहिए, रीजंस भी, और आपको डायरेक्टली पार्टी से डायरेक्ट भी करना चाहिए. और आपके मतलब दिस इज विद इन योर पावर, एंड नॉट ओनली दिस इज विद इन पावर, दिस इज अ रीजनेबल स्टेप व्हिच इज एक्सपेक्टेड फ्रॉम यू दैट यू विल टेक. और डेटर्स क्रेडिटर्स के जो बैलेंसेस हैं उसको आपको मैचिंग करना चाहिए, है ना. सो शर्मा जी, अगर मेरा कोई मतलब आपके क्वेश्चंस को मैं भूल गया हूँ तो आई बेग योर पार्डन. मैं आई विल लाइक टू, अगर कोई रह गया था, it is your judgment, it is as an auditor, it is your judgment which has to be taken into.
With regard to the physical verification of closing stock and assets,
that is very important. That मुझे लग ही रहा था मैं कुछ भूल रहा हूँ. Thank you. You are always my chairman. I'm a chairman emerit. Thank you for correcting me. See, in physical verification of the inventories. Now, physical verification of whether it is CPE, whether it is intangible, we have already discussed. Now, it is inventory. Inventory के अंदर मैं सबसे पहले स्टार्ट करना चाहूँगा WIP से, वर्क इन प्रोग्रेस. मेरा पर्सनल आप सभी के साथ शेयरिंग करते हुए, एक्सपीरियंस शेयरिंग करते हुए है, यू हैव टू बी वेरी वेरी कॉशियस अबाउट WIP. वो बड़ा एक डार्क एरिया है WIP. एंड नॉर्मली मेरा पर्सनल फीलिंग ये है कि ऑडिटर्स आर जनरली वीक अबाउट द इन्वेंटरी पोर्शन. वो कई रेशियोज को नहीं समझते, कई दफे कब कन्वर्ट हो जाता है. और WIP के वैल्यूएशन, ये तो प्रीपोनमेंट और पोस्टपोनमेंट का बहुत बड़ा टूल भी हो सकता है, क्योंकि बाकी और सब चीजें तो आपको रॉ मटेरियल का आपको कहीं थर्ड पार्टी प्रूफ मिल जाएगा, फिनिश्ड गुड्स का आपको फिजिकल वेरिफिकेशन हो जाएगा, या सेल हो रही है तो थर्ड पार्टी कंफर्मेशन मिल जाएगा. लेकिन WIP क्या है, मैनेजमेंट का खुद का इंटरनल डॉक्यूमेंट है. सो WIP आप कभी कभी इन्वेंटरी वेरिफिकेशन की बात करें, सबसे पहले WIP के ऊपर कोई फुल प्रूफ प्लान करें, उसको जरूर विजिट करें और उसको देखिए व्हाट काइंड ऑफ WIP इज. पुराना एक किस्सा जो हमको याद आता है कि एक साबुन बन रही थी, अगर उसको रॉ मटेरियल में दिखा दिया और एक्चुअली में जबकि वो फिनिश बन गई, तो आपको रॉ मटेरियल तो शॉर्ट मिलेगा, और फिनिश गुड्स में दिखा दिया तो फिनिश गुड्स ज्यादा मिलेगा, फिनिश गुड्स कम आ रहा है. वेयर इज दिस इज नथिंग बट ए क्लरिकल मिस्टेक, कि वो WIP थी जिसको गलती से रॉ मटेरियल में दिखा दिया. क्योंकि अगर आपको प्रॉफिट कम करना था तो आपने उसको रॉ मटेरियल में दिखा दिया, तो प्रॉफिट तो कम हो गया. लेकिन एक्साइज के लिए और चीजों के लिए बड़ा सीरियस इशू खड़ा हो गया कि गलत क्लासिफिकेशन से. WIP is WIP. This is number 1. Number 2, inventory valuation is a very typical but very simple as well. Inventory की location और condition, these are the two very important things which has to be kept always in the mind. कि इन्वेंट्री की लोकेशन क्या है, कंडीशन क्या है। इन्वेंट्री की लोकेशन फैक्ट्री के अंदर है, ट्रक्स में है, या वो खेत में अभी भी खड़ी हुई है, इन्वेंट्री बनने की प्रोसेस में है, बीच की प्रोसेस में WIP जैसा मैंने बोला, या वटर। तो पहले आप देखें इन्वेंट्री का नेचर क्या है, फिर इन्वेंट्री काउंटेबल है क्या, और फिर इन्वेंट्री, क्योंकि आपकी प्रोडक्शन प्रोसेस क्या है, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग प्रोसेस कंटिन्यूअस है, तो आपको काउंटर्स पे दिमाग लगाना पड़ेगा कि आपकी रॉ मटेरियल की कैपेसिटी कितनी है, कितना एक TPA कितना है, पर आवर की प्रोडक्शन कितनी है। All those criteria will have to be taken into mind. तो रॉ मटेरियल को वैसे, अच्छा, फिर इट इज ट्रू कि ऑडिटर को करना पड़े, बट दैट डोंट मीन कि ऑडिटर खुद अकेला करेगा, है ना। ऑडिटर कैन डू इट थ्रू इट्स एजेंसीज, थ्रू इट्स टीम, और थ्रू द एक्सटर्नल एजेंसीज ऑल्सो, जिसको वो फाइल आउट करे। बट द प्लान ऑफ द फिजिकल वेरिफिकेशन विल बी दैट ऑफ द ऑडिटर, क्योंकि रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी उसकी है, और मैनेजमेंट विल हैव टू कोऑपरेट। यस, auditor cannot ask the management to shut down the plant. Auditor cannot take a plea कि भाई मेरे को because उन्होंने plant shut down किया, मैं गिनती कैसे करता, मतलब मैं ये नहीं कर पाया, वो नहीं कर पाया। So that is not your cup of tea. That so आपको physical verification वैसे भी करना रहेगा। फिर physical verification से related कि अगर आपको उस nature की expertise नहीं है, जैसे मैं आपको बताऊं कि आप डायमंड के केस में, डायमंड फैक्ट्री केस में अगर वेरीफाई आउट करना है, तो यू रियली डोंट नो वेदर दे आर सिंथेटिक डायमंड्स और वेदर दे आर अमेरिकन डायमंड्स और वेदर दे आर एक्चुअल डायमंड्स। सो यू कैन हायर द एजेंसीज व्हिच कैन certify to you, which can provide professional opinion to you that the inventory which you are verifying is actually the inventory which is stated, क्योंकि वो जो CCC जो कैटेगरी होती है, कलर, कैरेट, साइज एंड वाटर एटसेट्रा, यू हैव टू सर्टिफाई। तो आप वो भी दृष्टिकोण से अगर आपको कोई एक्सपर्ट को हायर करना है, तो आप एक्सपर्ट को हायर करेंगे। देन जरूरी नहीं है कि आप 31 मार्च को ही करें। अगर आपने, जैसे शर्मा जी बिल्कुल राइटली पॉइंट आउट किया कि अगर आप कैश का फिजिकल वेरिफिकेशन कर रहे हैं बाद की डेट में, पहले की डेट में, तो उसको आप कोरिलेट करें ईयर एंडिंग से ऊपर। सिमिलरली इसके केस में भी, फिजिकल इन्वेंटरी के केस में भी ऐसा ही रहेगा। सो इम्पोर्टेंट इज कि फिजिकल वेरिफिकेशन का प्रोग्राम था क्या, मैनेजमेंट ने फिजिकल वेरिफिकेशन किया था तो उसकी रफ वर्किंग कहाँ है, उसके अंदर जो शॉर्टेज निकली उसका अकाउंट ट्रीटमेंट कैसे किया गया, अगर उसमें कोई फ्रॉड वगैरह वो हुआ था तो उसकी क्या पुलिस में FIR वगैरह दर्ज हुई थी क्या, उसका राइट ऑफ करना था तो वो राइट ऑफ वगैरह किया क्या, या कोई प्लांट, कोई अगर मटेरियल ऐसा है जो ऑब्सोलीट है, नॉन मूविंग है, तो क्या उसका कोई क्लासिफिकेशन हुआ है क्या। तो इन्वेंट्री के केस में एक मिनट, where physical inventory is not possible because of the company items like use etc etc. See, अगर जहाँ पॉसिबल है, जो आपके लिए पॉसिबल है किसी और के लिए पॉसिबल भी नहीं है, बट देन if there are other evidences which are available, जैसे आप कह रहे हैं कि 31 मार्च से, लेट से 15 मार्च से लेकर के 31 मार्च के बीच में माल आया, परचेज किया हुआ है, तो आपके पास थर्ड पार्टी एविडेंस है ना, और उसका आपने आने के बाद में, जैसे आप सभी को 5-5 दिन में पेमेंट कर देते हो, 7 दिन में पेमेंट कर देते हो, उसका पेमेंट भी 7 दिन में हो गया है, इसका मतलब दिस अगेन एविडेंस कि भाई माल आया था क्योंकि उसका पेमेंट हुआ है ना। फिर उसके बाद वो माल बन गया और आपने एक्सपोर्ट कर दिया, सेल कर दिया, और या जॉबर के लिए बाहर दे दिया, तो दैट इज अगेन एन एविडेंस कि वो माल आया था। तो कंपनी के पास माल नहीं है, दैट कुड बी ए वैलिड रीजन एंड दैट कुड बी एन इनवैलिड रीजन आल्सो, दैट कुड बी ए बोगस एक्सप्लेनेशन आल्सो। तो आपको हर चीज को क्रॉस वेरीफाई करना है, लाइक जैसे जर्नलिस्ट करते हैं, वो हर एक की बात को, आई मीन यहाँ पे एक मेरे को, आई वुड लाइक टू से, रशिया का एक प्रिंसिपल है एंड विच इज गुड फॉर ऑल ऑफ फॉर आवर ऑडिटिंग प्रोफेशन, ट्रस्ट बट वेरीफाई। रशियंस दे ट्रस्ट व्हाट यू से बट दे विल वेरीफाई। सो एज एन ऑडिटर हम भी, कोई भी क्लाइंट हमने को कोई भी इंफॉर्मेशन बोल रहा है, उसको ट्रस्ट तो करें। आई डोंट से कि पर से आप उसको रिजेक्ट कर दें, उसको वेरीफाई करें। तो कंपनी के केस में अगर फिजिकली वेरिफिकेशन नहीं हो पा रहा है, नो प्रॉब्लम, बट यू हैव टू सेटिस्फाई योरसेल्फ कि वो एक्चुअली में नहीं होने के काबिल है या नहीं। दोस आर काइंड। अब जैसे कोविड के केसेस में आपने देखा वो था, लेकिन बट नाइदर यू वर इन अ कंडीशन टू गो नॉर मैनेजमेंट वाज देयर, तो वो देयर आर केसेस। तो फिजिकल वेरिफिकेशन इज एन इम्पॉर्टेंट टॉपिक, बट यू हैव टू गिव इक्वल रिस्पेक्ट। अच्छा हाँ, if agar internal auditor, they are chartered accountants, competent, audit program is adequate. If they are certifying that they have carried out physical verification and they are providing you all the information which you otherwise could have prepared, or if you would have verified the physical verification, you would have verified in the same manner, then there is no problem. You can rely on their work. They are your professional brothers. They have equal technical knowledge possessed by them. And if they, even though they are employees of the management, you can rely on them and you can carry out your some checks. आज की डेट का आप इन्वेंट्री ले लीजिए, उसको पुरानी डेट से कोऑर्डिनेट कर लीजिए, अगर आपको लगता है वो सही है, बेस्ड ऑन दैट चेकिंग एंड रिजल्ट ऑफ दैट चेकिंग you can conclude that the physical verification conducted by the internal auditor is reliable and we have relied on them. We have relied on their working. So physical verification. Again, यहाँ पे भी conclusion के रूप में मैं यही कहूँगा, sufficient appropriate evidence. ये आपका judgment है. If you feel it is sufficient, it is appropriate, that's yes, it is appropriate, it is your signature. मैं या नफरा या SFIO या पीयर रिव्यू या कोई भी आदमी, योर फेलो ब्रदर, वो जस्ट ये देखना चाहता है कि आपको जो टेक्निकल नॉलेज इंस्टीट्यूट ने दी है, जो टेक्निकल पब्लिकेशंस आपके पास अवेलेबल है, जो रास्ते तरीके और जो मेथड्स मेथोडोलॉजीज उसमें बताई हुई है, क्या आपको उसकी जानकारी है, क्या आपने उसको प्रोग्राम में शामिल किया है, क्या आपने एक्चुअली में वो प्रोग्राम किया है क्या? जैसे प्रैक्टिकल में आपको बताता हूँ, आप इंटरव्यूज लेते हैं, है ना, मान लो आपने हर महीने में 10-50 इंटरव्यूज लेते होंगे, तो आप देखेंगे जितना छोटा लेवल का इंटरव्यू आता है उसका बायोडाटा कोई और बना के लाता है, वो बायोडाटा उसका नहीं होता है। तो ऐसा आपके साथ नहीं होना चाहिए। आपका ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट लेटर ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए विच इज अ मॉडल, विच इज जो सबके लिए एक ही बनाया हुआ है। आपका रिटर्न रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए जो सबके लिए एक ही बनाया हुआ है। आपके वर्किंग ऐसे नहीं है, आपकी ऑडिट वर्किंग ऐसे नहीं होनी चाहिए सबके बनाए हुए हैं। आपने अगर कुछ किया है, इंडिविजुअल किया है, then that differentiation should be visible. With this thing, these are my views on the inventory valuation and inventory physical verification. Amit ji. Amit ji.
I request other participants, yes, if anyone has any other question, please ask.
I think क्योंकि अमित जी ये जो सेशन होता है बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट सेशन होता है।
बिल्कुल सर।
बाकी सबके पास में तो इंफॉर्मेशन अवेलेबल है यार, आपके पास प्रैक्टिकल कुछ इश्यूज हो सकते हैं, विच एंड बेंचमार्किंग भी यही है प्रोफेशन के अंदर कि आपका प्रैक्टिकल इशू, मेरा प्रैक्टिकल इशू, व्हेंस वी पुल इट टुगेदर इट बिकम्स द इशू ऑफ द प्रोफेशन एंड इट विल हेल्प अस।
बिल्कुल सर। हैंड ओवर टू दिव्या।
Thank you so much, sir. We are enlightened by your words, and thank you for taking the time out from your heavy schedule and giving your precious time to us. We are blessed to have you with us today.
Thank you,
now, sir, I request CA Pushpa Palawatji, Secretary of Algar branch of ICI, to convey vote of thanks to our speaker.
Thank you, Divya. Our Chairman of Algar branch, CA Amit Agarwal ji, members of the management committee, learned speaker CA VIMAL Chopra ji, our esteemed members. First of all, I would like to thank our bright and enthusiastic MOC for today's session, Divya Jinsani, for conducting the session in a seamless manner. Thank you, Divya. उसके बाद मैं आज के हमारे लर्नेड स्पीकर जो बहुत ही एक्सपीरियंस होल्डर हैं CA विमल चोपड़ा जी, उनका मैं तहे दिल से आभार व्यक्त करना चाहूँगा। सर, आपने हम अपने बिजी स्केड्यूल में से हमारे लिए वक्त निकाला और बहुत ही कम समय में ऑडिटिंग स्टैंडर्ड जैसे कॉम्प्लिकेटेड टॉपिक को बहुत ही क्लैरिटी के साथ हमारे लिए एक्सप्लेन किया, तो उसके लिए सर आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। हमारा सौभाग्य है हमारी अलवर ब्रांच का और अलवर ब्रांच के मेंबर्स का कि हम आपके एक्सपीरियंस से आज कुछ सीख पाए। थैंक यू सो मच सर।
एक मिनट, एक वो स्मॉल कंपनीज की डेफिनेशन के बारे में क्लियर कर देता हूँ। सेक्शन 2 सेक्शन 85 कंपनीज एक्ट एंड 1 फरवरी 2021 का जो नोटिफिकेशन है उसके अंदर 50 लाख रुपए की जो लिमिट थी स्मॉल कंपनीज की, दैट हैज बीन रेज्ड टू 2 करोड़ एंड टर्नओवर ऑफ 2 करोड़ हैज बीन रेज्ड टू 20 करोड़। तो अगर आप क्लॉज 4 में स्मॉल कंपनीज की डेफिनेशन बोल के बाहर हो जाते हैं, देन यू नीड नॉट टू विजिट दी प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी। और प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी के लिए मैंने बोला था कि स्मॉल कंपनी के केस में तो आइदर और कंडीशन है, और नीचे प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी तीनों क्यूमुलेटिव कंडीशन है। आपका कैपिटल प्लस रिजर्व प्लस सरप्लसेस 1 करोड़ तक का होना चाहिए, बोरोइंग्स जो है 1 करोड़ की होनी चाहिए फाइनेंशियल बैंक और फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशन से, बोरोइंग सैंक्शन लिमिट नहीं, बोरोइंग, और तीसरा टर्नओवर है वो 10 करोड़ का। सो यहाँ पे क्यूमुलेटिव कंडीशन है, तब आप बाहर होते हो। So I think dear AK sir, I think I have responded to your issue. Thank you, Palawa ji, and thank you, Akash bhai, thank you, Amit ji, and thank you, Divya ji. And,
Thank you, Vimal sir.
Thank you so much,
and
sir.
my chairman.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
मजा आ गया बहुत.
In fact,
Thank
it was
you.
Arya Agrawal ji who brought me into this business of delivering, because उनका ये था कि knowledge, मतलब वो इनकी knowledge के बारे में तो मैं क्या कहूँ कि सूरज को दिया दिया, वो कहते हैं कि भाई ज्ञान बांटने से बढ़ता है. So if you really want to learn, तो आपको lecture देने की शुरुआत करनी चाहिए. So मेरी जो भी working है या जो कुछ भी मैं दे पाता हूँ, तो the reason is Mr. Arish Sharma ji.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you
Thanks
so
a lot.
much, sir. And I would take this privilege to end this session by a few words, a few lines. क्लाइंट की करी हुई कारिस्तानी है जो ऑडिटर ने पकड़वानी है, और कुछ नहीं, ये ऐसे 240 की कहानी है. क्लाइंट करेगा अपने फ्रॉड को कंसील. तुम भी यूज करो प्रोफेशनल स्केप्टिज्म और कर दो सब रिवील. पहले करो एक एंगेजमेंट टीम क्रिएट, फिर ढूंढो एविडेंस सफिशिएंट एंड एप्रोप्रिएट. चेक करो where is the material misstatement. Do some inquiries with the management. Don't forget to communicate with those charged with governance, because ultimately you will have to give a reasonable assurance.
बहुत बढ़िया.
All the technical words. Excellent.
बहुत बढ़िया.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much, sir. So
अपने प्रोफेशन में भी हिडन टैलेंट है सर.
हाँ शर्मा जी, हम लोग जिस एज में हैं उसमें हमें हमारी खुशी का ही बच्चे अंदाजा नहीं लगा.
सही बात है, सही बात.
So let's end this today's session. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.